Welcome to Belkin's Growth Podcast, hosted by Michael Maximoff, co-founder and managing partner at Belkin's. Today's guest is Daniel Ramsey, co-founder and CEO of MyOutDesk, Inc. MyOutDesk is a California-based business process services company with delivery offices located in the United States and the Philippines. It is one of the largest virtual assistant staffing companies in the USA, with over 6,000 clients in dozens of industries. Michael and Daniel speak about the benefit of outsourcing to support business growth, as well as exchange thoughts on why and when you need to start to outsource. Enjoy listening, and don't forget to subscribe for more episodes.
Daniel, I appreciate you taking the time. Just for everyone who's listening to this, let me give an elevator pitch of what you guys do. So MyOutDesk is a virtual assistant staffing company, and you guys help companies to grow and cut costs by outsourcing repetitive business tasks.
Think of us like a staffing company for anybody who's trying to scale a business. The number one challenge that every CEO has, and I'm sure you have this exact same challenge, is if I had the right team, I would win the Super Bowl. Like, that's it. And the challenge is people, entrepreneurs, the team really, really matters. But sometimes the process and system that you put in place determines the success of the team. And that's the other piece that we help companies like, well, our clients really figure out. Do I have the right systems and processes? And then who do I need to win the Super Bowl? And so those are the two things that we help our clients do.
Let me get some numbers straight. So you guys founded the business, Daniel founded the business back in 2008, right?
Yeah, 2008, we had our first client write the check in April, and that guy, I just want to hug him right now because he created something pretty special because he took a chance on a crazy guy from California.
I started my business in 2017 in April as well. So
nice.
So it's interesting. April is a good month to start the business, right?
It's spring, man. Everybody likes to do things in spring.
So you've been around for 20 years now. You have 2 locations, right? You guys are in Sacramento, California, and then you have an offshore locations in Philippines, right?
Yeah, so our main headquarters is in Sacramento, California, and that's where we service our clients both in the US and Canada. And then all of our people, we've hired and deployed 6,000 virtual assistants over the last 13 years. And so all of those people are in the Philippines. Okay.
I saw 700 people on LinkedIn. How many folks do you have working for you these days?
Around 1,100. Yeah.
1,100, like full time? Yeah. When you say like the core team or the stack, so it's 1,100, right?
No, we're a total of 1,100 employees for the company. LinkedIn is, some people aren't claiming us on LinkedIn, right, which is funny. But yeah, the core and the company itself, we're about 50 people. So about 50 of us serve other 1,050 virtual professionals that are placed with clients.
Got it. Okay. So, and then who are those 50 folks that work for you? What is the team structure there?
I mean, every business is built into 2 kind of, sales, marketing, and then delivery, right? So We're built in that same exact world. So we have salespeople and marketing people and placements people that are helping our clients onboard and hire the right folks. And then we have service, IT, accounting, infrastructure. And so we're split into 2, and it's about a half ratio. About half of our folks are on the sales and marketing side, and then half are on the service and delivery side.
So I definitely wanted to touch base more in the sales. I wanted to pick your brains on some of the sales things that you guys do there. But I wanted to start off with just talking about customers in general. So I've seen on your LinkedIn page, you guys have around 6,000 paid clients these days, or you work with, 6,000.
We've had 6,000 clients in our history. Yeah. So for 13 years. Yep.
Okay. And the industries are like real estate, IT tech, human resources, healthcare. What else? Are you guys industry agnostic at this point?
Yeah, we're industry agnostic. But Michael, what's funny is I want to say 6 months ago, we had our first cannabis virtual assistant. So somebody, a friend of mine who's in a mastermind owns a dispensary and a delivery company is like, dude, I need somebody to answer the phones. I'm like, I can help you do that. And then he was like, I need somebody for accounting, and I need an assistant, and I need a marketing person. I like to tell people we're like crack cocaine. And we have this e-commerce customer who we signed up maybe, I want to say 3-4 months ago. He hired 2 accounting people, realized, and he's a company of about 80 folks, a local e-commerce company. He's also in another mastermind that I'm in. And what he realized was he probably could run his company with 40 of our people and 40 of his US staff. And so what we do is we help companies unlock opportunity within their existing model and infrastructure. In his case, he's got 13 customer service people in the US making $40,000 to $70,000 a year. Well,
right.
Our people can do customer service and it's $22,000 a year. Right. So we're going to take his best US based people, give them lots of opportunity to lead and do interesting stuff. We're going to resource his existing staff. We're going to find them new positions or jobs within the company that would add value. And then we're going to backfill that position with 10 of our virtual professionals. And so all of a sudden, department in his business that costs him, I don't know, what's 10 times 50. So $500,000 a year is going to go to $200,000 a year. That $300,000 difference is just going to drop directly to his bottom line. So literally him and his partners are going to get an extra $300,000, have zero difference in their customer service, maybe even see an increase because US folks, we don't want to answer the phone for 10 hours a day, right?
Exactly, yeah.
This is what we do for customers, whether it's phone calls, sales, marketing, or admin support. We look for opportunities to unlock value in your business, and we'll create a plan so you can have a blended model, part outsourced, part US.
Got it. Okay. And then typically you guys have this foot in the door offer, right? Like when you start with something small, like with a pilot project for one role, or you kind of start big and you usually kind of start covering several positions. What is the sales process there? Because I know that sometimes, talking about the service business, it's difficult to sell, or kind of to show the benefit from all of those, right? You can't just start the project with 40 titles, right? Or outsourcing 40 titles or something. So you just start with small. So what is yours that sort of like foot in the door that you typically feel like comfortable by trying this out?
So outsourcing is something that has been around since the 70s and 80s. In fact, my personal story is, and this is a crazy, funny story, and I really didn't realize it. It wasn't conscious in my world until about 5 years ago. But growing up as a kid, my dad worked for a company called Jeremac, and they're a shampoo hair product company. I think they're still around, but they got bought a couple times. But anyways, my dad's manufacturing job when I was a kid, when I was like 6 years old or something like that, got outsourced to Mexico, right? So, and this is back in the 80s, early 90s, right? When NAFTA happened, the North American Free Trade Agreement. So outsourcing has been around forever, like literally forever. What we do that's different is when a client raises their hand and says, I'm interested in considering this, we put them through a consultation where we craft a plan, meaning not every company is going to want to outsource 70% of their customer service or 50% of their sales. Some do, some don't. But what we do that's different is we'll sit down with you. We'll look at your systems, your process, what's your IT stack, who's on the team today, where are you going? Where do you want to be in 2 to 4 years? And we'll craft a plan so you can have what we call a blended model, where you're going to get savings. We're going to help you save money and time, but still grow your company, which is ultimately, what everybody wants to do. Here's the one thing. Your US team, right now, with the pandemic happening and everything that's going on in the world, they're likely stressed. They might be doing the job of 2 employees, and they need help. And what we'll do is we'll go in and we'll give your US team assistance so they can get rid of the not important work, the stuff that has to happen, but isn't going to drive revenue, freeing your US best employees to do the most important work, which hopefully will help you drive revenue, scale your business, and have a business that's worth selling at some point in the future.
Because we all work remotely these days, this model is blended in basically, and you should see the traction just going up and up and up with regards to the demand that you guys generate. So obviously you can clearly see the benefits of this, right? Like, with the naked eye, right? What are the concerns? Obviously there might be some, pitfalls. Can you share like 2 concerns, or, you know what, let's put that in a different way. If I am the business, what have you seen? Like there are few things that just doesn't work or didn't work before that you can share?
I love it. So I'm going to answer both questions. Number one, the concern is how do I outsource a portion of my company without losing its culture? I have a great team. We've been driving revenue. I don't want people scared that they're going to lose their job. So we'll craft a culture plan with somebody like, hey, this is how you announce. This is what it looks like. This is how you tell your people that this is coming. This is how you slowly ease somebody in. So that's number one, culture. How do I keep my culture? In this remote environment, everybody is concerned right now because everybody's working harder than they've ever worked. Teams are more disconnected than they've ever been. We see 300 to 500 people every month. So we're getting this feedback. I'm having challenges keeping my remote team, motivated. I'm having challenges making sure projects are happening. So we're going to help you craft a plan to go remote as well as outsource a portion of your business, right? So we're going to make sure that you're set up for everything that you need. And one of my favorite examples is with remote teams, we have a chat, kind of a group chat for the whole company and each department, right? Well, as a business, you're not going to go into your chat and say, I'm going on a bathroom break. My 4-year-old would say, I got to go potty. You don't want to say that. So,
right.
In our chat, we say bio, be right back, bio break, be right back. Right. So they're just these little tweaks that companies need to make to going remote, and we'll help somebody kind of figure that. We put a guide together that we'll give away to your audience, actually. So that's number one. How do I keep my culture? How do I go remote? We need a plan to actually outsource so we don't lose the culture. But the mistakes that people make are like, can't you just do this for me, Daniel? We have customers that come and they're like, I want to try a marketing thing, or I'm interested in building a new IT platform out. Can you do that? And we're like, no, we really can't. We're a staffing company. We'll help you run an existing system or process. And we're not like you guys, right? We give people to fast growing companies that need to scale, but we don't do it for you. Our size is such that we're a done with you platform. We give you talent, but we don't do it for you. So that's one of the bigger concerns when somebody's like, I'm just going to buy a list of leads. Can your people call them? I'm like, no, don't buy a list of leads. That's the dumbest way to grow. You've got to put a system together. You got to put a process, as you know. And so our biggest challenge is helping people understand what the path is to success and then where we would fit in.
Do they often expect of your guys to create a process or to manage the process? It's like all the time, right? And that's sort of like the problem. So you need to communicate. And how do you communicate that? How do you communicate saying that, you know what, this is my job. This is what I do. This is what I get paid off. And I don't do that, or I cannot create the process. How do you guys tackle that?
Well, we just had a great entrepreneur. He has a team of 7. He's got 1 full-time admin and 5 salespeople besides himself. And he's the CEO of the company. And they're doing really good. I mean, they've broke $1 million in revenue, so they've made it past. So one of the things, we're going to give away a copy of our book at the end of this. So if you're listening right now, most of the stories and the go remote and the consultation, it's all in there. So you're going to get some really specific, these are the things that you need to do. But, the CEO comes and he says, hey, Daniel, I need marketing. I'm like, that's awesome. Every business needs marketing. Tell me a little bit more, right? He goes, well, I need you to build a plan. Then I want you to tell me what technologies to get. And then I want you to give me a person who can create a strategy. And then can you execute on that strategy? I said, absolutely. I think his name was Mark. Mark, all I need is 51% of your business.
Right.
And like, wow, Mark goes crazy. He's like, what are you talking about, Daniel? I'm like, what you're talking about is an owner's job. That's the entrepreneur's job, or a highly paid consultant to craft a marketing strategy. Right. So what I help people, what we do is if you have a plan and a system and process, we will run that plan. We can't be your coach. We can't be, the quarterback in your business. That's your job. But we are definitely a team member. We can be on the front line with you. We can catch the ball for you. We can help get all the equipment to the field. Like we're a big supporter of companies that are trying to grow and scale, but we're just not the coach. We're not the owner, and we're definitely not the quarterbacks.
Here is a concern for you. I think the difficult one. Let's say I'm growing my sales desk, right? And I have a few sales folks, but what I really want to boost my sales process by hiring and scaling the team with you guys, right? And I start off with a few folks, sales agents, and then I grow to 5, 10, 15, 20. At some point in time, I will have a lot of folks working with you, and I have one, let's say, manager making sure that things work, right? But the thing is that people are rotating, right? Let's say my manager is sort of like going or shifting to another role or going to a competitor or something, right?
Yeah.
Typically, when I have a team in place, right, I know that I'm not just getting those people to do the job, but I also growing the sort of like the substitute for my future heads, right? So I'm growing the managers, right? So at some point in time, they go from junior to middle, from middle to senior, and they transition within the company. And I kind of do that with you guys. So at some point in time, my hands are tied, right? Because then I need to hire from the outside. And I'm not a great believer of hiring from the outside for key roles, just because it usually doesn't work in the long term. What is your guys' take on that concern?
It's always best to grow your people from a junior role to a senior role, from a senior role to a manager. But there's this concept in business is that you promote people to their level of incompetency, meaning they were great junior salespeople, they were great senior salespeople, they were a great manager, but when you make them a director or a VP, they fail. So you just have to be cognizant of that not everybody can be homegrown. And whether it's outside, you bring talent from outside into your business or you homegrown, you just have to you realize employees have expiration dates. And that's one of my favorite sayings. There's nothing wrong with somebody building their career with you and then finding another opportunity. That's not disloyal. It's not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing for your company and for them. They come in, they get basic level of skills, they promote from within, and then they take their next leadership role at another company. And so my perspective is, what isn't lost is your systems and process. Building a company, whether it's a sales team, a marketing team, an admin support, if you have the right systems in place in terms of how the leads are handled, how you service the clients, how you onboard them, how you kind of love on them over time, then turnover isn't an enemy. It doesn't affect your business. In fact, here's a crazy concept, right? As you're building a business and you go from 0 to $1 million, 96% of all businesses never get over $1 million. 96%. So the vast majority, actually, of businesses out there, there's 28 million businesses in the US. 28 million, 60% of them report zero income to the IRS. So most of the businesses don't even say they make money, right? And then only 96% stay below $1 million. So that means 4% get over $1 million. The differentiator between the people who get over $1 million and then get to 10 million and then get to 50 million, the systems and processes that are in place. And those aren't reliant on keeping people. Once they're in place, they're in place. And so that's what we help people understand is that, if you're having turnover or you're challenged with keeping salespeople or you don't have a funnel for people to move up in leadership roles, look at your system, revamp your process, revamp how you're doing what you're doing, and you're going to be fine.
Talking about your business, so I understand the value of the concerns of outsourcing. That's pretty straightforward. I wanted to touch base with you on, what was your company growth trend, right? I guess, again, before we start recording this, I've mentioned that we've been around for 4 years now. We are growing, and since you and I, we are in the people's business, right? We have this, or we're going to have the same challenges as you guys have these days, right? So can you give a short version of your growth history? Like, okay, you started out in 28, you had the first customer, and then how did you guys grow year over year?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I should get actually a graph so I could answer that specifically, but I'll tell you the whole growth story. What happened in 2008, we served our first client. 2009, I went on my honeymoon, and I was still new as an entrepreneur in 2009. I'd only been in the business 5 years. of really being an entrepreneur. And when I say in the business, being an entrepreneur for yourself is a business. Like learning how to grow revenue, hire people, build a model that's scalable, then tweak that model so that it's very highly profitable and has a lot of opportunity for other people in your team. Like that's a whole business of just being an entrepreneur. And so 2009, I go on my honeymoon, and you'll laugh at this because I'm in Guatemala. I'm in a Francis Ford Coppola resort, right? And it's 1 a.m, and the only place with Wi-Fi is the bar. So the bartender's there, Hispanic, and he's making fun of me in Spanish, like stupid white guy, beautiful wife back in the room on his honeymoon, and he's working. And here I've got a great picture of this, by the way. I'm like shooting like laser beams at him, angry because and I understand Spanish, so I got a beer, I got my laptop, I'm working. In that moment, I had an epiphany. I knew that if I didn't change something as an entrepreneur, I would lose my marriage, maybe never have a family, not really live the dream that the whole reason we all become entrepreneurs is have time freedom. We don't want to have a life. And so in that moment, I came back to the US after the honeymoon, and I revamped everything in our business, hired admins, hired marketing people, put systems and processes in place. And that's really when we started taking off. In 2011, my wife and I actually left the country and lived in South America for 6 months. That was my proof of concept, meaning could I really outsource my business and live that lifestyle, right? And it's kind of like the 4-hour work week, but with Tim Ferriss and all that. We started outsourcing before that book came out. But that book and the growth in the industry has been more to do with our success as a company than anything in the world. This pandemic, wildly enough, that's been a big part of our success because we are a fully remote team. Last month, we put $2.4 million in reoccurring annual revenue on the business in 1 month, which is nuts. So we've gone through, to answer your question, the explosive growth happened when we built systems and processes. I got out of the way as an entrepreneur, hired really good people. Each time we've hired another level of leadership, we've had another steady growth period.
Who were the first folks that you hired? What were their roles?
Sales, marketing, then we hired admin, then we hired some leadership in the people side of the business. Then we hired a COO. We hired a controller 3 years ago.
So I understand what sales and marketing roles were. So the marketing guy should build the marketing from scratch, right? The sales role should talk with customers, drive the revenue, understand what is the admin person going to do? I mean, you have like a few folks in the company. So at that time you already have been hiring a lot of virtual assistants. So you have a lot of people managing. So that admin role should serve like to build the process or to help you to manage the offshore location, right?
Well, I'll give you an example. 7 years ago, we envisioned we needed software because all of our people are fully remote, meaning they're working from, like you're working from an Airbnb right now in the countryside. I'm working from home. My people are working from different islands in the Philippines, their home locations, the Metro Manila area. So an example, 7 years ago, we had this vision like, hey, we need software to make sure everybody's logging on and we can keep track of their time. We know their location. We know what they're doing on their computers. And we can kind of just track what everybody in the company is doing. At this time, I think we had 500-600 VAs, right? So all these people are working remotely and we didn't have a single system. So the admin people were literally like, hey, good morning, checking in. Are you working? And it was all on Excel, right? All on Excel. And it started getting crazy and we'd have somebody leave or somebody miss a schedule. And we were the last ones to know. The client knew, the VA knew, but we didn't know. And so we built this technology. Well, we outsourced the software and it was horrible.
Question for you. So you outsourced building the tool and you outsourced that and it failed, right? You were not able to successfully outsource that.
It wasn't that it failed. What it was, it worked, had lots of bugs, was expensive to scale, and didn't really. So here's the thing about building a business, right? You can do a task and check the box and say, hey, I did it, right? That's one way. You can do a check the box, and make sure it handles the outcome. Meaning we were going to spend money as a tool to enable remote work. We needed a tool to enable remote work and make sure our clients knew what was going on with their people, right? Well, we built a tool, but it didn't actually hit that outcome. Our clients didn't feel enabled. As a company, we didn't have. And so 4 years ago, we hired our first programmer, in-housed it. Then we hired our second 6 months later. We're up to 3 people now. And when you ask about admin, I mean, our IT stack is complicated. And so we kept having to pay these contractors, and they didn't really know our business. They didn't really understand why we needed the software or why we needed that particular process built and automated. And that's just IT. Same problem in finance, same problem in customer service, same problem in sales, same problem in marketing. Every single department has their own workflows and their own automated system, right? And so, we had to build those things in order to grow and scale. And to your earlier question, once we've automated, the more we've automated, the less people we've had to hire to do the job, less errors that are made, the happier our clients are, the happier our people are, the better the profit is for the business, right? So Everybody who's listening right now, you think, oh, my job is to go out and sell. I'm like, it is. And then it's building scale in your business. And then it becomes, hey, I've got to build people in my business. You're hunting for talent at that point. And that's how you know you're a real CEO, is when everything is about who's on the team.
Right. Talking about delegating, were you the person helping to build the tool with programmers, creating or kind of reviewing the UI, UX, creating the sort of like the description, making sure that the features are in place, all of that? Were you the person, or you had the person inside the team that were sort of like on top of that? Because I'm asking you this because, I'm in the same place. We're building the tool. We try to outsource it. We spent 6 months. We spent about 50 grand or 75 grand. We didn't build shit, right? We go back. We hired programmers. And then we also have a team of 3 to 4 people right now. And they're building, and they're still spending like 6 to 8 months building that out. It's still expensive. So was that the same experience for you, or?
One of the things that I made a mistake early on was I thought everything needed to be custom for us. And so as a CEO, I've learned a lot. There are certain tools that need to be custom for us, like our remote working platform. That has to be something that we own. It's imperative that it's our data, on our servers. We control it. We can customize it. Our CRM, our marketing platform, there's plenty of great products out there. Our phone system, like we could choose to build our own phone system, but why, when RingCentral is cheap, very scalable in every country in the world, and they've already spent hundreds of millions.
Right.
Yeah, hundreds of millions building out this platform. So why would I think? So the question you have to ask yourself is, when you're building an IT stack, is this unique enough to my business that I can't buy an off-the-shelf IT stack that will do what I need it to do? Right. And in our case, there was nothing in the world that could do a remote work platform the way we needed it to. There was no system out there, so we had to build it. That's the only time that I think you should create technical debt in a company.
What tool do you use, or did you custom made the tool for like operational, like invoices, the billings, the customer retention, all of that? Is it the custom build, or you have like an external tool for that?
We took an existing IT platform and then we customized it to our needs. So for us, our CRM is Salesforce. And and then we use that IT tech platform, the remote work platform, to invoice our clients. Like our virtual assistants log into there, and then we know the hours that they work. And then we have QuickBooks as our accounting thing. And so Salesforce connects those 3 different platforms together to automate our billing. And, but that's how we chose to do it.
Right. It's very complicated, right? When you get into that sort of like automation stuff, because at the end of the day, every tool that you're looking at, it doesn't quite fit yet, right? And then you're trying to kind of tailor it. So got it. So going back to the core team, I'm interested. Question that I have for you, this is my personal interest here. The people that you hired initially, they started out the business with you. How many of them are still with you until this day?
Great question.
Are there any?
Well, we definitely have one, and I'm trying to think. I'm like, I think literally one. Like our first hire was our sales, like a sales guy. I was doing sales calls, and then I finally figured out how to generate enough leads, and we were getting referrals, and it was too much just for me to handle. So we hired a sales guy, and he's been with us almost 9 years. Everyone else, our average tenure for employees are a little bit over 4 years, but the first VA that we ever hired, she'd been with us forever. And unfortunately, she passed away. And our second person is still with us. In fact, she's, so when it comes to our virtual professionals, it's a very different conversation. Right. Most of them, many of them have, like, we just celebrated 10 years for some.
They build their career of the kind of like the clients that you have them working with, right?
There's one person that's been with us 8 years. She leads our SDRs, and dude, she's irreplaceable. Like, and that's our mission as a company. Our mission is to have our virtual professionals become indispensable for our clients. And she's definitely indispensable for us. She's that go-between between our marketing team and our SDRs. So when we're creating content and building, revenue, basically, because we're a content generation company, that's how we build our revenue.
Right.
She's the one that connects the content to the people, so the SDRs have the right script. They know exactly what to say. And that, it didn't happen overnight. That's the other thing that entrepreneurs, not always I'm going to say this gently, right? The more time you have developing your staff, the more valuable they become for the business, and the less and less you have to do. Like, she was texting me the other day, hey, we got to change our comp plan for our SDRs. We need to change this and this and this. And I'm like, oh, okay, what are you thinking? Like, all of a sudden, I'm not the one worried about all the details. She is, and she and I just have a conversation, and then a change is happening, and that helps the business grow. So you get that over time. Like, you get that with when you build somebody up from, they start at the lowest rungs, and then they rise. Eventually, they're just like, this person runs this part of our business. She's indispensable to us.
Have you thought of any mistakes that you did back then when you hired your first managers or people running the team? What are the top 3 that you sort of would not do right now when you hire a manager? Like, top 3 for you that you know that you did when you kind of started out building out the structure.
One of my favorite stories is I've got a good friend who's a plumber in Sacramento, California, and this is, if he's not a small guy contractor. So if you're a tech person listening right now, or somebody who's not, he's got a really big business. So he's not the average plumber, right? Huge business, just bought $120,000 wakeboard boat. I mean, I'm like, I can't wait to go out on his boat, right? But he moved into a building, I want to say 5-6 years ago. And as an entrepreneur, he was looking around at his shop, and he realized none of his tools had a spot. None of his bays, because he's got a lot of equipment. So none of his bays were organized. And so people were bringing equipment and dropping it in different locations, and it was all wonky. So I'm like, hey, what have you been up to, dude? He's like, oh, guess what? I completely changed the organization of the entire shop. He's got 5 different bays, and he's got different, now he's got a place for every single piece of equipment, and different stations for repairs, and all of his equipment. And then he labeled stuff, and he painted the walls so that every single thing had a spot. And he's like, that's the job of an entrepreneur. Because he had 2 employees. He had a manager who was in charge of all the maintenance. He had mechanics on staff. And there are 3 guys, and all they do is work in that shop every single day. But for years, they were disorganized. So he spent 2-3 weeks organizing everything in the business. After it was all done, he's like, guys, don't ever let it be like it was before. And then he walks out, takes 3 weeks off. Doesn't work, That was a mistake that I had made early on, is thinking that my managers could build that organizational system. Like, that's the uniqueness about an entrepreneur. They can go in and they can see everything that's not organized and needs to be shifted. They can make recommendations, and they know the process, like step 1 through 20. That's my favorite story. Entrepreneurs are wired different, and embrace that wiring. We're not wired to go in and do the same job over and over and over and over and over and over. But we are wired to go in, fix things, reorganize, set up a process, get out of the way, help our people win in that process, and then go do it again somewhere else. In fact, that's what we enjoy.
Amen. I like that story. That's an amazing story. And I definitely relate myself to that and to other entrepreneurs that I know. That's definitely the core shtick to every sort of like entrepreneur that is out there. That's very, very good. So talking about, okay, I know that we are kind of running short on time because I touch based a lot on the company and the operation. So talking about your sales. So how many sales guys do you guys have?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 total.
So these are the sales execs. So they're closing deals. They are on the phone doing demos, signing contracts, right? And then How many SDRs?
5.
5 SDRs. So those sales execs, so do they get leads from the inbound channel? You mentioned like your guys are your company's content machine or something. So you fuel your growth by creating a lot of content, publishing that content, and driving a lot of leads through the content. So that's your primary like focus and the strategy, right?
And there's a lot of we're a digital content creation company. Like that's what we do. Is we talk about virtual assistants, we share success stories, we give guides, we help companies and industries understand what pieces of their business are responsible entrepreneurs should outsource. I'm shooting on you, so I'm sorry. But if you're listening right now and you've never outsourced and you're a small or medium-sized business, it's imperative for you to unlock value in your business and go through this process. It will teach you to pull everything that's tribal in your head. Like there's a thing, when you have an office, there's something called tribal knowledge where you can just like somebody can tap you on the shoulder, come over and show you how to do something, right? When you're remote, what has to happen is you have to start documenting things. You have to start documenting your process, documenting the systems, building IT stacks like you are doing and I'm doing, right? You have to do those things. And so by doing those things, by definition, your company will be more valuable. In fact, there's a mass disparity between companies that are tribal knowledge and successful versus companies that are systems based, that have their systems and processes documented. Sometimes the valuation's 2x, meaning you'll get $100,000 for this one that's tribal, and if you do this one, it's worth $300,000. Right. So it's a big difference in the valuation of a company, and it's also the thing that allows you not to have to work in the company, which is the goal of every entrepreneur, right? Right. Not do the work, just be there and lead the company and really benefit from having some time freedom. So I start rambling on.
No problem. So talking about content, what type of content do you guys create? Like a lot of blog posts, white papers, case studies, all of that?
Yeah, and a lot of client success stories. We do a lot of guest posting in different industry blogs. We have an email list of engaged people who have gotten our content and are looking. We put everything, even this interview, Michael, we'd love a copy. We'll throw this on our blog and give it and put it out there, and we'll promote your podcast. The point is, if somebody's listening and they want success, like we'll typically, and this is, if you're listening right now, this is one of the things that we teach our clients, right? When you're creating content, one, you have to solve a problem of a client, but it has to be in the context of your company. So this is the challenge. This is the challenge with creating really good content is like, hey, this person over here has this huge business problem, but it's hard for me to link it to how virtual professionals or virtual assistants can help them, right? So that might not be a great piece of content versus this other company who's like, hey, we're working 10 hours or 12-hour days and we need some of our time back. And well, with that content, we could talk about how having an administrative virtual assistant in this industry might help that company grow. And by the way, here's a success story of somebody who did it. Here's the job description and here's the launch plan. So that's what you have to think about when you're creating content is, what are the problems that my customers or my ideal clients would have? And how could I solve them in the context of my product or my service? And that's what we do all day long. And so there's my secret, right?
Are you outsourcing your content creation as well?
No. By outsourcing, we have 2 people in the US that are on the marketing team, and then 4 people in the Philippines. Everything from graphics to email setup to blog posts to web design. We do that in the Philippines.
Right.
And the writing, the strategic thinking of what pieces actually tie with our client and product and our client's problems, that's done here in the US. But again, we preach a blended model, and we eat our own dog food. Like literally every single department has people in the Philippines and people in the US.
Right, of course. Right. So I'm not sure if you know this, but maybe you know. So the way you guys create the content, do you guys focus on the distribution or on more like technical SEO part? What brings more sort of customers there? Obviously, it should be like a blended, like a mix, right? But when you create the content, do you create the content like, let me give an example what I mean. I have 2 kind of content, so like categories. I have blog and I have the how-to, right? So the how-to I create only for SEO, for example, right? Because I know that these are huge pieces. A lot of folks would not read them till the end. They are very functional. They are like that. There is an audience that like to read those, like 35 pages studies and all of that. But I know that I use that and create that for SEO so that I can get less quality on the graphics or less quality on the storytelling, right? Because I know that it's more like technical reading. Whereas with the blog, I know that my blog is specifically for the engagement. So I distribute the blog. I watch on the average time spent on the blog, the recirculation, and all of that. So the point that I wanted to understand, because at the end of the day, when I do this blogging and then I say, okay, you know what? Because I'm focusing on the quality and on the engagement, it gets very expensive to create the content like that because every piece of content is unique. Yeah. So based off that, I can create 2 pieces of content that could create me more value for the SEO and they can bring me more customers. So where that sort of like silver line there?
Yeah, we do the same thing. I mean, the reality is, I guess if I were to give your audience and you any advice, I would say video content is king. So as much as possible, creating video content like you and I are doing right now. Video content is the thing that matters more than anything else. Everybody's investing in it. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Google, it's where it's at. So whether you're doing a how-to or a readable blog that's entertainment based, my suggestion would be include and create video for both pieces. There's no wrong way. I mean, because the SEO piece drives organic traffic and the blog drives hopefully revenue, meaning people are going to raise their hand and say, hey, I need that. Or, they come on your website and they get retargeted, or they see your ad and then they post it out there. So you're getting engagement and you're getting top of funnel engagement. So the reality is each business is different. For us, we're kind of like you. We just do both in hopes that, we're getting hits on both sides, But I can tell you organic traffic is our number one converting traffic source, and it's free.
But you've invested for like 12 years into that, because I mean, those 2 US people and those 4 in Philippines should get some percentage of the budget, right? Every month.
Our marketing team, just to give folks, I'm not gonna, it costs us about $1,000 in marketing budget per new client. So we're spending a lot just in the marketing piece of our business to drive revenue. And so, this is the new modern, this is how businesses are growing now. Like, this is what I love having these conversations because you obviously know what you're doing in terms of organic and blog and email and SEO and like understanding those differentiators. Here's the reality. Every company right now, having been through the pandemic, is figuring out their digital strategy. How do I measure success? How do I email my clients? How do I grow my list? These are now the main focus of every company out there, like without a doubt, because you can't go to a restaurant now. You can't go to a store. Amazon, damn, you guys are brilliant. I'm buying everything there. I'm not going to stores anymore, And so I think this is the most important investment companies can make right now.
Since we're in the same line of business, do you guys do any advertising? Do you think that advertising works for B2B like SMBs? I think that it's quite expensive to get the subs from the advertising. Do you do any ads?
We do everything.
You do everything. So you have a budget for ads as well.
Yeah. And here's the reality. By themselves, no. In conjunction with everything else, yes. But it's the last thing that you put in place. You get your email right. You get your list right. You get your blog post right. You get your SEO, organic traffic dialed in. You make sure that your video and all your distribution networks are solid. You make sure your process for loving and dripping on people is, and then you buy leads. Because guess what? Their conversion ratio when you pay for traffic is just low. I mean, it's just low. It's your most expensive lead source. But every company that's $1 billion company buys traffic.
Right.
So SMB should be no different. It's just your last strategic ad is to do it. And the other challenge is that each distribution of paid ads is ran completely different. Google's different than LinkedIn. LinkedIn's different than Instagram.
Or Facebook, right.
Or Facebook. And if you want to buy ads on YouTube, guess what? That's freaking different too. So, the challenge is you have to have different specialists that support those ad platforms and really understand not only your business and how to convert your customers. So it's absolutely the last lead source that you put in place.
Right, because there are a lot of other more budget-friendly channels, and then you need to crack the code for them first, and then move to those that sort of like get ahead of the scale. Okay.
So here's another craziness. Referrals, guess what? Least expensive, easiest to close, fastest converting, cheapest, most engaged audience. And you know how many businesses come to us and say, hey, we need help with our paid ads. And I'm like, well, show me your referral program. Oh, I don't have one. Well, let's start there. Dude, Michael, I want to give away a book. Can we do that for your audience?
Absolutely. Yeah, we have 5 minutes, right? Or you have more time?
We do, but I want to give this away because there's a little bit of a story. So what happened was last year we wrote this book, and I wanted our clients to have a success guide, meaning I wanted them to turn to the sales virtual professionals and know exactly what they need to have. So how to, overcome objections. What are your systems for, nurturing leads? How do you open a conversation? I wanted them to have all the goods to have an SDR so that they could hire somebody if they've never done it before. So we wrote this book. Then the pandemic happened, and it was like, oh my God, we've got the perfect guide for somebody to go to remote. It's our book. So if you're listening, all you have to do is text 31996. That's the number you text. And you, with this message, S as in Sam, V as in Victor, P as in Paul. So it's scaling your business with virtual professionals, SVP, and you'll get a free electronic version of our book. And I put my heart and soul into it, dude.
Nice. Appreciate that, Daniel. I really appreciate that. So more like provocating questions to wrap things up. Do your clients love you guys? Do they say, I love working with your company? Do they love you? They like absolutely fanatic of you guys. Is that the case?
Yeah, here's the craziness. We are the only company out there that has more than 500 5-star reviews. And the reality is that every single customer that comes in, we ask them for feedback, and we ask them to give us an honest and real review. And I think we have 3 bad ones out of 500 and something. So yeah, there's every once in a while we have a customer service issue, but we always lead with service. Our role in this whole thing is serving our clients and our virtual professionals so that they can go out together, grow their business.
So you have sort of like client success managers or account managers that are handling accounts, right? Do they have any KPI or any sort of like targets with regards to having that satisfaction rate going up or very high? So how does that? So what I'm interested to know, because you guys have a lot of customers, obviously the referral-based channel works real well. So you can ask your customer, hey, do you know any businesses that might use our services as well? Can you recommend someone, right? Obviously. what we've seen that if we put in place like a extra motivation system for our client team, like, you can get paid more if you hit that target based on the upsells or cross sells or refer clients coming, because that's the cheap channel. And typically people are lazy to do that, right? Because you need to do extra push. So we did that and we've seen that it's growing for us, right? And my team is always hitting that cross sell or upsell goal. So meanwhile, we have a KPI for the satisfaction. So I just wanted to know, how do you guys handle that? What is the sort of like process? Do you have any specific unique process for that?
No, it's the very same. In fact, I think last month or the month before, we had 50% of our business, more than half, actually come from referrals. And the majority of that is driven not only by our virtual professionals that are in the field working, meaning because they're doing such great work that the customer's like, hey, give me a couple more. But it's also because we have that success manager, that customer person who is helping them get launched, making sure they have everything in place, being the go-between between the virtual professional and the customer, making sure the outcome is getting hit, right, for the business. So we have that person that is there to make sure the launch is really going well. And so, yeah, it's the same process. We pay additional kind of
pay extra if they hit the okay. And a lot of companies during the pandemic, they were cutting off the budgets, right? They were like saving anything that they can. And a lot of companies, including us, we hit the highest churn rate in 4 years, right? Any recommendations or suggestions or insights how you guys do to decrease the churn rate, to sort of like any tips on how you can make sure that the churn is lower?
Well, I'll tell you, one thing that we did during the pandemic is we increased our budgets. So we went full tilt on hiring more people and buying more ads and creating more content. In that March and April period, we had more than, I think we had 1,200 people through webinars, like 1 on 100 people, where we were helping people get the PPP, and we were helping people understand the disaster loan and the new tax rules, and we were helping people shift their value proposition. So what I would say is, the one thing that has helped us through this pandemic is that we were really highly engaged with our customers and what struggles they were going through. I'm telling you, I was helping our clients figure out how to apply for the PPP. Then we were helping them revamp their value proposition. An example is, we have a house cleaner in your neck of the woods, the Northeast, right? Well, nobody wants them in their house. All the offices were closed. So what did she do? She shifted to being the only certified COVID-19 house cleaner. Guess what? Her business blew up. But that conversation happened because we were talking about, hey, what do you have to do different in your business now based on what the real world concerns are? And had we not been in that conversation with those clients, we may not have kept them on the boat. So my suggestion right now, you got to add value in a way that you've never considered before. It's not enough to just do the job. You've got to find ways to add value.
So your customer success managers, they are more like consultants, advisors right now, rather than just like executioners, right? So
our customer service people, their job is to make sure that virtual professionals become indispensable for the clients. Like, that's their one thing. Nothing else matters. And help us grow the business, right?
Right.
That's it. What we did as a company was help our clients through this pandemic.
But who did that? I mean, you can imagine that you have, let's say, 1,000 companies, right? And you had, let's say, 1 month or 2 months with 1,000 customers, for example. You were on the call 24/7, let's say 25 calls a day, or you had people and you had some tasks in place?
No, we had nothing in place. Nobody had anything in place. If I told you that, you'd know I'd be a liar. First of all, none of this was in place. It all took us by surprise. I personally had 1,200 people come through a webinar. Our sales team, I taught them the pieces. We put together a guide. We gave customers a guide to applying for the SBA loans and the PPP money. We gave them a guide for revamping their value proposition. We gave them a guide for going remote. Our content people worked really hard to get these things out. And in March specifically, we'd never put out more content than we've ever done. Like, if you look at 2 quarters behind March, we did more in March than we did for half a year prior to the pandemic. And so when you ask, what do you do for retention? everything you can. Get really close to your customers.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of Belkin's Growth Podcast and found it useful. Be sure to subscribe and catch upcoming episodes on iTunes and Stitcher.